In a wooded parkland at the northwest corner of Canton, Ohio, off Interstate 77, stands a memorial to America's most exciting sport, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. This nationally acclaimed museum is situated not far from the site where the National Football League was founded in 1920 and where the Canton Bulldogs were crowned the NFL champions in 1922 and 1923. The Pro Football Hall of Fame is filled with dynamic and entertaining exhibitions that recapture every phase of pro football's 100-year-old history and at the same time pays homage to the great players, coaches, and contributors who have been accorded membership into the Hall. Each year, a class is inducted, giving them a permanent place in the game's history. Such was the case on July 31st, 1993, when 5 new members were officially presented. If you were there, it will be an emotional reminder of the occasion. If you were not, the experience here may prompt you to visit the museum and its annual induction ceremony at some future date. Bringing the total membership in the hall to 169 are quarterback for the San Diego Chargers, Dan Fouts. Guard for the Miami Dolphins, Larry Little. Head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Chuck Noll. Running back for the Chicago Bears, Walter Payton. Head coach for the San Francisco 49ers, Bill Walsh.
Good morning, Canton, and good morning, America. Hello to all of you great fans of professional football. We welcome you to the front steps of the Pro Football as we are about to enshrine 5 more greats in this, our 31st annual Enshrinement ceremony. To greet this year's class of enshrinees as they are introduced, I would like to introduce to you the Commissioner of the National Football League, Paul Tagliabue, and the Chairman of the Board of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Board of Trustees, Mr. Stu Wilkins. It has been a busy week for all the fine folk in Canton and this area. Many activities all built around this event. So let's meet this year's class of enshrinees. This man is one of only 3 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL to throw for more than 40,000 yards in his career. In his 15-year career, he threw for 254 touchdowns. He was the heart and the soul of the San Diego attack during the late 70s and early 80s when they dominated the NFL in both total offense and passing offense. He played in 6 Pro Bowls, was the NFL Player of the Year in 1982, elected in his first year of eligibility. Welcome, Dan Fouts. Our next enshrinee got his start in pro football when he signed as a free agent for the San Diego Chargers for $750 back in 1967. 2 years later, he was traded to the Miami Dolphins. He was a 6-time All-Pro. The NFL Players Association selected him as the AFC's outstanding offensive lineman in 1970, 71, and 72. He was the anchor man for the powerhouse style of football the Miami Dolphins used in the early 70s. Welcome, Larry Little. For almost 40 years, the Pittsburgh pro football teams could not win a championship of any kind. Then in 1969, they hired a man who, in his 4th season, captured the AFC Central Division title. Then they began an unprecedented period of dominance with 4 Super Bowl championships in a 6-season span. He ended with 209 victories. He was a great judge of talent. He was stern. He was strict. He was fair. And believe it or not, he was emotional. Elected in his first year of eligibility, a welcome for Chuck Noll. When you talk about the best all-around football player to ever play this game, this man's name will be mentioned. He rewrote the NFL record book with his ball-carrying feats. In his career, he rushed for 16,726 yards, 110 touchdowns. 77 times he rushed for more than 100 yards. Nicknamed Sweetness, he played in 9 Pro Bowl games. He was as tough and intense as they come. Elected in his first year of eligibility, welcome Walter Payton. Our next enshrinee is a man who longed to be a head coach in the NFL, and he finally got his chance when the San Francisco 49ers came calling in 1979. 3 years later, his team won Super Bowl 16. In 10 years, his teams won 3 Super Bowls, 6 NFC Western Division titles. He developed quarterbacks and used the passing game as well as any coach has ever done. Now, he continues to coach the game he loves, now on the collegiate level, but he has left his mark on pro football. Welcome, Bill Walsh. Ladies and gentlemen, to honor this great country of ours, would you please join with Scott Bates in the singing of our national anthem? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. And now, to give you all a big welcome from the city of Canton, here's our fine mayor, the Honorable Richard Watkins.
Good afternoon and welcome to all of you to the city of Canton, Ohio, the Hall of Fame city. We have a beautiful day, and you know, I mentioned last night, when we look at the young people that are coming along today, we have nothing to be afraid of. When we look at a nation that needs heroes, and God knows we do need heroes, there they are. These are the people that are worth emulating. They are the people that know what discipline and integrity and hard work is all about. They've performed that in their careers and have given us the desire to do the same. On behalf of the city of Canton, I welcome all of you here. You come as strangers, you leave as friends. We hope you'll come back again and again to football's greatest weekend. Thank you for being here and have a wonderful time.
We are also honored today to have on our stage the governor of this great state of Ohio, George Voinovich.
Mayor Watkins, Commissioner Paul Tagliabue, Jim Johnson, our MC. It's great to be part of this Pro Football Hall of Fame's 30th anniversary celebration and enshrinement ceremony, first opportunity that I've had as governor. One of the things that when we talk about Ohio being proud, we're proud that Ohio is the home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and it's right here in Canton, Ohio. As the birthplace of the National Football League's forerunner, the American Professional Football Association, it's appropriate that Canton's been the home of the Hall of Fame for over 30 years. It's a great booster for the Canton community. It's Canton's best foot forward as a national, international travel and tourism destination, and it brings a great deal of money to this area of our state and to Ohio in general. Since the early 70s, this Hall of Fame has received nearly $70 million worth of television promotional spots. When I mention tourism, we've got people here from 50 states, from 65 to 70 countries visiting Canton, Ohio. But more important than its economic impact in Northeast Ohio or its travel contribution to the state's travel and tourism industry is that it honors the achievements of those who have excelled in a uniquely American sport, football, not only on the field, but also in their contributions to their communities. Football is great for America. As Mayor Watkins said, we do need heroes. We do need role models more than ever before. These are the people that we can look up to in our communities. In addition to that, football is great for the family. You know, sometimes people say, well, that television interferes with the family. I got to tell you, in this country, maybe the only time a week families do get together is for that football game on Sunday afternoon, or go to that game. The players and coaches inspire young people to get involved, to be physically fit, and to be members of a team. And teamwork's very important. These people are being honored for individual contributions, but teamwork's important to America. Teamwork's important to families, and teamwork's important in the workplace. That's what makes us competitive in that world marketplace, and we learn that from football. I'd like to congratulate Paul Tagliabue and the NFL for recognizing their responsibilities, not only as a sport and entertainment people, but they influence the lives of this country, people in this country and their communities through the work that they're doing. I've never mentioned this to anyone before, but when I first became mayor of the city of Cleveland, we were down and out, down and out. And I just want to mention, used to go to those Browns football games, and some of you, do you ever pray to win? I prayed to win. And I prayed to win because I wanted my town to have something to be proud of. And I'll never forget that Monday night football when they said, we're here from with a comeback team from the comeback town. And these people, I think some of them that are being honored here today, don't understand what a dramatic impact that they have on the esprit de corps and the quality of their communities. And I want to thank them for what they've done for their towns. I'm honored to be here with these outstanding people. I'd like to congratulate them and the coaches that are being honored. I'd also like to say to you today that as this grows in the state of Ohio, so does this Hall of Fame. There's going to be an $8 million expansion, and I'm sure all of you are looking forward to see it. To the 5 enshrinees today, I would like to say this. Thank you for what you've done for your country. Thank you for what you've done for your states. And thank you for what you've done for the communities in which you've been involved with. Thank you very much.
Now it's my pleasure once again to introduce to you the Commissioner of the National Football League. A welcome for Paul Tagliabue.
It's a tremendous privilege for me to be part of this Pro Football Hall of Fame weekend, and I can tell you it's even a greater privilege for me to be very brief. Today we not only honor 5 outstanding men, we kick off the 1993 season of the league, and there's tremendous excitement. We have games here in Canton. We have games overseas in Barcelona and Tokyo. We have excitement in training camps in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, in Austin, Texas, and around the country. Pro football is America's most popular sport, and you have with you today some of the men and some of the special people who made it that way. People like your 5 outstanding enshrinees today, others, some of whom are here today, the Hallises, the Hunts, the Rooneys, the Maras, the Al Davises. These have been very special people. What distinguishes them is that they have cared very deeply about the great game of football, and they've nurtured it and developed it, and most of all, they've had the support of the fans, those of you out there who have been the great supporters of college football, high school football, and the National Football League. I congratulate all of you. I congratulate these outstanding contributors to the National Football League. I salute the citizens of Canton, the citizens of Ohio, all of you who have come from around the country. I hope you enjoy pro football's greatest weekend as much as we do. Thank you for being here.
We have 2 more special people we want you to meet. They are located on the stage behind me here. One is this year's winner of the Dick McCann Memorial Award, which honors the first director of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The award given by the Pro Football Writers of America in recognition of distinguished service in the field of pro football reporting. And this year's winner is Ira Miller of the San Francisco Chronicle. The Pete Rozelle Radio Television Award given by the Pro Football Hall of Fame in recognition of long-time exceptional contributions to radio and television in pro football. This year's winner, Kurt Gowdy. Now, if you look around, you can see we have thousands gathered at the hall this morning for one reason: the enshrinement of more greats into this Hall of Fame. So let's begin. Don Coryell was Dan Fouts' head coach during Dan's most productive seasons with the San Diego Chargers. Under the famed Air Coryell offense, Fouts developed into one of pro football's all-time great passers. Today, Don Coryell is here to present Dan Fouts for enshrinement. Welcome, Don Coryell.
Thank you, inductees, and ladies and gentlemen. It's been very rewarding and very exciting for me to be one of Dan's coaches, and to be able to present him to the Hall of Fame makes me extremely proud. Now, to many people, Dan is a legend. The fans remember him, I know, as an inspirational leader and, of course, as a fearless competitor. He was that tall, feisty, bearded quarterback who had fire in his eye And the fans remember, of course, the way he walked to the line of scrimmage, the way he looked over the defense, and the way he called the signals. His opponents remember him because of his quick drop and the way he set and threw the ball without hesitation. He could see the whole field and find the receiver quickly. Dan would stay in the pocket till the last second and take a hit without flinching. To win, opponents had to defend Dan very well, or else, like many of them did, score a lot of points. His receivers knew if they got open, they'd get the ball. His passes were perfectly timed, and if the receiver read the defense right and made the right move, the ball would be in his face before he turned his head. He made it easy for the receivers. Dan had a special love for his offensive linemen. They were his buddies. He had a way of exciting these big guys, and they all loved him. They were a close-knit group, and they were good. They were a very good team, and Dan was one of them. By the way, 3 of them are here today. Now, we coaches knew that Dan was extremely bright and very skilled, and if we let him do the things that he did best, that we'd have a good chance to win. Now, our defense knew that if they were tired, they better sit down and get a drink of water fast, because Dan could score in a hurry and they'd be back on the field. Dan was in charge. He instilled confidence. In the huddle, he did all the talking except once. At the start of a series, Dan said, "Give me 10 good plays and we'll score." His good friend, Big Ed White, groaned and said, "Hey, Dan, I'm hurting. Let's make it 8. And old Dan, you know, he's ready to accommodate. He said, "Well, okay for you, Ed, we'll score in 8. When Dan was too beat up to play, we had to force him to the sidelines. He never pampered himself. He never saved himself for the next game. Winning the game he was playing was the only important thing. I remember a sinking feeling I used to get inside of me when I'd see him during the week with ice packs on both elbows, both shoulders, and both ankles usually. He even walked like a robot. He wasn't able to practice because he was injured so badly at times. Pre-game warm-ups, he would have an angry look in his face. I knew he didn't want me to ask him if he was okay. But I watched him, and as he got more excited, he became more feisty and even more nasty and very, very short-tempered. That was a very, very good sign, and I was relieved. I knew he was able to play. He started 171 out of 178 games, and many of these games he was injured, but he still played that ball game. He didn't have to play. He was so courageous, and he was so tough, and he was so loyal to his teammates and the team that he would make any personal sacrifice to win. You know, Dan does not fit into any mold. He will never be duplicated. He is special, very, very special. And my personal feeling, when you add together all of his personal abilities and his virtues, his accomplishments, he's the greatest quarterback, in my mind, that's ever played the ball game. In my mind, I know there are a lot of them, but that's how I feel. It is my honor to present Dan Fouts into the Football Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you very much. Really from the bottom of my heart, of all the thank yous that I've had to dole out in the last 6 months since my election to the Hall of Fame, the thank you I give to you is the most significant, because if it wasn't for you, Don Coryell, and an offense named Eric Coryell, I most assuredly would not be here accepting this induction to the Hall of Fame. You know, since retiring from the NFL 5 years ago and going into broadcasting, I want to do something now that I haven't been able to do that you see all players doing all the time on the sidelines, and that's what I just want to say. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Hi, Nick and Susie. And hi, Jerry. This is obviously a great day in my life and in the lives of my family and friends. And I want to thank all of you who have flown here all the way from the West Coast for being here. I know how difficult and expensive it is to break up your summer vacation, and I certainly and sincerely appreciate you all being here. Whereas this is a great honor and a thrill to be here, it is also a very difficult speech to give. It's hard because there are no rules, there are no guidelines. The only thing they tell you is that you have 8 minutes, and then they turn a little red light on, and then you're supposed to get off. Well, there's the red light. I think I'm going to give it to the coach, and when there's 2 minutes to go, he'll turn it on. Because, like many of you, I've watched these ceremonies on TV, and some of these speeches have been very good. Some of them have been bad. Some of them have been moving and inspirational, and some of them have just laid there. Some have been funny and witty, some political, and others rather inane. And didn't you love it when Terry Bradshaw stood up here and pretended to get under center? He wanted one more chance. And what about the time Earl Campbell stood here and said, quoting Willie Nelson, "Who'll buy my memories?" Well, like you, Earl, and like you, Terry, my memories are not for sale. But I wouldn't mind having a shot at some of that money the owners are throwing around. In a career that spanned 15 years, I've had thousands of teammates and hundreds of coaches, and I appreciate all of them, all of their help and tolerance, all of their support and guidance. And I've always prided myself on being an honest person, perhaps sometimes too honest, but honest nonetheless. My teammates and my opponents will tell you they know and they knew exactly where I stood on just about every matter. Whether it was a crucial 3rd and long and 4th down, or discussing a referee's mark, or sitting around debating the Players Association, or who was going to buy the next round of beers, my teammates always knew exactly where I stood. I always made my honest feelings known. So it is with that in mind that I stand before you today on the steps of the Hall of Fame and tell you that without a doubt, I'm the luckiest man in the world. And lucky for many reasons. Lucky to have a family that supported me through the good times and the bad. A mother and father who, when I went to them when I was 11 years old and asked permission to play football, they both told me I had to play quarterback or I couldn't play at all. Now, Coach, that should tell you the shape of my body when I was 11. I was lucky to have brothers, Bob and John, to play catch with, sisters, Patty and Nancy, to talk to. Their love and caring saw me through. Their and their family's 100% attendance today illustrates just how special the Fouts family is. You know, I've been lucky to have played my entire career in one city, San Diego, 15 years, same team, and I played with the greatest quarterback that ever played the game, Johnny Unitas. And I know Johnny U is watching this somewhere today. I just want to say hi, John. Quit shaking your head. I'm really here. Because I know John Unitas. And Dan Fouts is no John Unitas. I'm lucky to have played for a coach that could cut through all that coach speak and lay it out in the simplest of terms. you'd come over the sidelines in that crucial timeout late in the game, and the other assistant coaches would be saying, well, you got to read the defense, throw to X to Z, try to get it in this seam. If not, then you dump it off to the halfback, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And he'd grab me, and he'd shake me, and he'd say, damn it, just throw it to JJ. I would, he'd catch it, first down, then we score. It is my sincere hope that my inclusion to the Hall of Fame helps open the doors for so many others, deserving athletes and coaches who have not participated in a Super Bowl game, or worse yet, did not come out on top in that game. To me, the Hall of Fame is about influence on and contribution to the game of pro football. I was lucky enough to play for and with such worthy individuals. There's no coach that has had as big an influence on the way offensive football is played today as has Don Coryell. The offense that became known as Air Coryell led the NFL in passing 7 of 8 years in a row. That statistical fact is unparalleled in the history of the game. You can look it up. And all you have to do is to tune into CBS any Sunday, and you'll see multiple formations, substitutions, shifting, flexing, men in motion, and a bombs-away attitude that Don Coryell made a routine part of the greatest passing offense in the history of football. At the time of his retirement, no offensive lineman played in more games than Ed White. Over 17 seasons, Big Ed played in 241 games, 24 playoff games, and 4 Super Bowls. Represented the Minnesota Vikings and the Chargers in the Pro Bowls, and no offensive lineman was more feared or more respected than my buddy, the biggest of Eds. And can someone please tell me how the voters can continue to overlook the exploits of Charlie Joyner? All Charlie did was catch more passes for more yards and played more games than any other wide receiver in football. 2 of those marks have been surpassed, but he still has played in more games, 239 as a wide receiver. Could anybody show me a better tight end than Kellen Winslow? Or a better wide receiver than Wes Chandler or John Jefferson? Am I biased? Okay, Swan and Stallworth, that's okay. I am biased. These are my coaches, these are my teammates, they're my friends, but they are, more than anything, most deserving. I am so proud to join these men over here with these men behind me in this, the Hall of Fame. Can you imagine a better class to go in with? Bill Walsh, Chuck Noll, Larry Little, and Walter Payton. I told you I was lucky. I'm also the happiest man in the world right now, because it's been said that a pro football career is similar to a roller coaster ride. I've gone from a pro prospect to a 3rd round selection to a rookie quarterback to a fledgling quarterback to a struggling quarterback to a promising signal caller to all pro almost to all pro to player of the year to potential Hall of Famer to aging superstar to ex-quarterback to certain Hall of Famer to elected in the first year of eligibility, this gold jacket, these steps, this Hall of Fame, and as a roller coaster ride, it too has been thrilling. Thank you very much.
Don Shula programmed Larry Little as the pulling guard in the Miami Dolphins' vaunted running attack of the 1970s. Under Coach Shula's guidance, Larry quickly developed into one of the game's premier offensive linemen and a perennial All-Pro. Thus, it is appropriate that Don Shula is here today to present Larry Little for Enshrinement. Welcome, Don Shula.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to extend my congratulations to the other inductees today. Seeing Dan Fouts here reminds me of his great performance against us in the 1981 AFC playoff game that the Hall of Fame voted as the best game of the 1980s. Walter Payton, one of the greatest running backs I've ever seen play. I would especially like to congratulate my two former coaching colleagues here today, Bill Walsh and my former assistant during my tenure in Baltimore, Chuck Noll. Listen to this now. Between the two of them, they are 7-0 in Super Bowls. Chuck Noll 4-0, Bill Walsh 3-0, and nobody knows more than I do how tough an accomplishment that is. All four individuals, without a doubt, are worthy additions to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. No one was more misnamed than Larry Little, who was a giant. He wasn't little, he was a giant in his profession. And the first right guard and only the third guard overall to be voted into the Hall of Fame. He has received an honor that he richly deserves. Larry was a key member to our back-to-back World Championship teams that went 32-2, including the 17-0 perfect season of 1972. Four members of those teams are already in the Hall of Fame, and it's only fitting that Larry joins them because he played a major role in their success. Bob Greasy, who is here, had a great career as our quarterback. And for more than a decade, it was Larry Little who helped protect him. Larry Zonka, who is here, was a 1,000-yard rusher in those years, and it was Larry Little who opened many of those holes for Zonk to run through. Paul Warfield caught a lot of passes in a Dolphin uniform, and it was Larry Little who helped give him the time to get open. And Jim Langer had to feel pretty good when he looked to his right and saw Larry Little lining up alongside of him. Larry's outstanding play as an offensive guard goes beyond those visible examples. From a much broader perspective, Larry helped define the way the position is played today. As one of the bigger and stronger linemen of the league, he dominated defensive linemen, becoming one of the best pass blockers in the NFL. But his contribution to the Dolphin running game was really what made his mark. Despite his size, I keep talking about his size, he was asked to pull out and lead sweeps, a responsibility previously reserved for much lighter guards. Without a question, a lot of defensive backs who were used to taking on smaller guards saw Larry coming at him, and that shook him up. He had a great knack of using his speed and agility in addition to his strength to simply move them out of the play. As a former defensive back myself, I know I wouldn't want to see Larry coming at me at full speed. After a while, defensive backs tried to run around Larry rather than take him on, and it gave our backs like Zonka, Mercury Morris, and Jim Kick even more room to run. And it was no coincidence that in 1972, during the perfect season, the Dolphins set an NFL team record for most yards rushing. In fact, the Dolphin average of 2,372 yards rushing per season in the 1970s was the highest figure in the league for that decade. And during that time, Larry was universally recognized for his greatness. He earned All-Pro honors 6 times. He was Pro Bowl selection on 4 occasions, and he was the first player in the league to be named AFC Offensive Lineman of the Year 3 straight seasons by the NFL Player Association. Listen to this. He originally signed and joined the San Diego Chargers as an undrafted free agent for a $750 bonus. That's worse than the deal where they purchased Manhattan for $24. 2 years later, he was traded to the Dolphins, where he truly began his Hall of Fame career. But there was more to Larry Little than his great athletic ability. As big as Larry was physically, his heart was even bigger. Larry was a winner who didn't know what it meant to get out or to get beat. He helped define that sense of pride that surrounded those great teams. He was willing to do whatever was necessary to help the team win. He learned how to discipline himself. He went from 290 pounds down to 265, where we wanted him. And he exerted the same quiet discipline on his teammates, who respected him as one of their leaders. There was a presence about him that was unmistakable. When Larry Little spoke, both teammates and coaches alike made sure to listen what he had to say. Playing in Miami allowed Larry to give back a lot to his community. He created the Gold Coast Summer Camp for underprivileged kids in 1970. The program was eventually backed by United Way. He was listed in Who's Who in Black America. He was a local product who made good. Growing up near the shadow of the Orange Bowl, and when he finally made it as a player on the field, he cast a shadow of his own that symbolized the desire and the determination of the great Dolphin teams. It was an honor to coach a player with the heart, intensity, and will to win that Larry showed during his Dolphin career. And it's with great pleasure that I present him for induction into the Professional Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Coach Schuler. First of all, I would like to give honor to God for giving me the ability to play this game and for helping me to play 22 years out of my life without a serious injury. I'm accepting this honor from my former players at Bethune-Cookman College, my former players and administrators with the Ohio Glory in the World League, and my present players at North Carolina Central University in Durham, North Carolina. What comes to mind today is how happy and honored I am to be a part of this elite and extraordinary group of athletes, coaches, and administrators. Remember sitting on Saturdays, watching this program, watching this induction, just visualizing myself up here one day, making my Hall of Fame speech. It was rewarding for the way I came into the league. It's especially rewarding because I wasn't drafted, receiving a $750 bonus. Just being in the league and getting the opportunity to play, to me, was quite an honor. So I didn't care how much money I made. I just wanted to have an opportunity. Football prepared me for so many things in life. How to deal with the peaks and the valleys, the bitter with the sweet, self-motivation, and believing in myself and working with others. When I first went off of football at Booker T. Washington High School in Miami, I was in the 9th grade. I was only 13 years old. I know I probably would have been voted the most unlikely to succeed. I was so bad, I didn't get equipment until the season started. But I was only a 9th grader. And I had a friend of mine named Joe Walker, who's a blind DJ in Atlanta, Georgia, that made a statement at the end of the show every week. A winner never quits, and a quitter never wins. And I took that along with me because I knew I was going to be a winner. It was always my lifetime ambition to play professional football. And most of all, I would like to thank my mom, sitting right there, Ida, for always being there with me through thick and thin, raising me to be the kind of person that I am today. I want to thank my wife, Rosie, for being there through the aches and the pains, and especially the good times that we shared. I would like to thank my sisters, Connie, Linda, Joy, and Betty, for being there for me. And also my brother David, who cannot be here today, because he's in Barcelona, Spain with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I want to thank my high school coaches, James Everett, Alkin Hepburn, James Spence, Robert Wilcox, Ralph Burns, Cleveland Polk, and Cecil Harris, who had so much to do with my development as a young man trying to learn how to play this football game. And for my teammates who would help me after practice and try to help me to become better. And the teachers who helped me realize early the value of an education. I want to thank my college coaches, Jack McLaren and Lloyd Tank Johnson, who recruited me out of high school to give me a chance to continue my education and give me the opportunity to think toward to reach my goal. I can't say enough to thank Tank Johnson. He was there for me as a player. He's been a good friend with me all my life, and he's the one that got me into this coaching profession that I'm in today. I want to thank my first professional head coach, Sid Gilman, who's in the Hall of Fame. I want to thank him for giving me an opportunity to play and for trading me to Miami. I want to thank my line coaches, Joe Madro in San Diego, Ernie Heffley in Miami, and Monty Clark. Monty Clark, I know you're out here today, but you gave not only me, but our whole offensive line the kind of pride to be the best in the business. And we're the best offensive line to ever play the game together because of Monty Clark. I want to thank John Sandusky, who took over later in my career, who kept me believing in myself and to help me be who I am today. And a very special thanks to you, Coach Schuler, for having the foresight to see me at the weight I was, to help me to lose this weight, to be the kind of person that I am today, a great football player that I was when I retired. And you motivated me to be the best that I could be. I would like to make a special thanks to my teammates in Miami, especially the offensive line again, and Bob Gracie, Larry Zonka, Jim Langer, Bob Kuchenberg, Wayne Moore, and Norm Evans. And he told me I better mention his name, Eugene Mercury Morris. And there are some people here today that are not here physically, but I know they're here spiritually, looking down on me, just smiling. They're my father, George, my older brother, George, my roommate for so many years in Miami, who was on the offensive line, Wayne Moore, and my grandparents, Ishmael and Elizabeth Haynes, who were very close to me, and everybody that has pushed me along the way. If I forgot you, I'm sorry. But thank you, and this will be one moment that I will cherish for the rest of my life. Thank you very much.
In 1969, Dan Rooney selected Chuck Noll as the new head coach of the then bedraggled Pittsburgh Steelers. Even when Chuck's first team finished 1-13, Rooney's confidence in his choice never wavered. Inspired by his unflinching support, Noll turned the Steelers into the NFL's dominant team of the 1970s. Today, Dan Rooney is here to present his former coach for induction. Welcome, Dan Rooney.
Buenos dias. I bring greetings to the coach and all of you from the team in Barcelona. We would like to begin by congratulating all the members of this great Hall of Fame. Today's enshrinees, Dan, Walter, Larry, and Coach Walsh. There are times, though seldom, when something happens, when everything comes together, and a group of young men become a special team, where their accomplishments give them a time in history for the way they reach success, not only winning, being the best, doing so with unselfish determination to be the best team, making the goal together. And that happened in Pittsburgh. It was a glorious time. A team begins with leadership. In 1969, a 35-year young coach arrived with commitment and the ideals to be the best. He assembled players with similar ideas, but had to convince them and the entire community to believe the goal was possible. Not an easy achievement. The start was rocky, but he never deviated and stuck to the basic. Small victories came, and they began to believe possibly they could be the best. We're not here today to celebrate statistics. The accomplishments speak for themselves. We're here to consider achievement, not just the greatness of winning seasons, 200 victories, or even 4 Super Bowls, or even the greatest teams ever, but the accomplishment of men reaching a level collectively to be the best they could be, men of character, doing the job together. All the people on that team belong here. They all deserve to be enshrined in Canton because he led them to greatness, and they were the best. Today is most important because the leader is here. He personally deserves to be here. He represents all of them, all of us, Pittsburgh. He belongs principally for what he is, the coach, the teacher, the person. His character and ethics had everything to do with the success. Withstood throughout, influenced all around to be the kind of person we need. Good people, special people, winners, lasting, continuing. He is among the great football coaches, Hallis, Lombardi, Lambeau, Brown, Shula, Walsh, and Stagg, Bryant, and Robinson, who were special, reaching the top, not only having the best records, but the best teams. The Steelers were special in how they were a team. The coach pointed the direction to help each other, one of love. Other teams have considered themselves the enemies of the rest. The Steelers respected all and played as a tribute to the game. and enjoy the challenges. The league had no better champion because they carried the banner with pride and responsibility. They were different in play as well as conduct. The coach was different. His love for the game, the league, his players, and they all were proud of their differences, and he united those differences. He and Mary Ann are good friends. Their son, Chris, a fine young man, not surprisingly, is a teacher. His wife, Linda, is a teacher, and we had terrific times together. I would like to thank him for what he did for all of us. Pittsburgh became the most livable city. The Steelers were the standard which every team in the NFL tried to emulate. All of us became committed to being the best, including the fans. Yes, it was a special time. It was fun when the road to the Super Bowl ended in Pittsburgh. It is my honor to present for induction to the Pro Football Hall of Fame one of the finest men ever to play and coach in the National Football League, Coach Chuck Noll.
Dan Fouts is holding the money for the guy that cries the longest. And I'm going to win it. Thank you. Let me tell you, this is the miracle of Canton. All right, the miracle, probably because I'm here, for one, not expecting to, but a miracle because I think about a third of Dayton, Ohio is here, right there. All right, half of Cleveland is here, 3/4 of which are my relatives, and I think the rest are the men of Benedictine. Of course, from Dayton, there's the University of Dayton people, a lot of them here, and 3/4 of Pittsburgh. You know, I feel the luckiest guy in the world. Dan Fouts claimed it. I think he's second. The fact that you can get an opportunity, a timely opportunity, that you can put together some teamwork, I think is the thing that you're looking forward to. You know, my background in Cleveland was a great opportunity going to Benedictine High School, which would allow academics and sportsmanship and moral responsibility stay on an equal level with athletics, and I think that's important for young people. Having coaches that helped you be the best you could by teaching you technique and helping you do that. That's something that stayed with me through my career, and it's something I'm eternally grateful for. But coming back to opportunity, being drafted 21st by the Cleveland Browns and coming back to play for Paul Brown was something that was very special to me because times have changed. I think in 1946, I paid 25 cents to sit in the dog pound. They didn't call it that at that time. They allowed high school players, football players, to come in, and for a quarter, you could watch the likes of Lou Groza, Otto Graham, Dante Lavelli, Marion Motley, the guys that are sitting here, Bill Willis, special people. I never had the idea in my mind that I'd be on the field with them. that I was able to do that. That was an opportunity I'll never forget. At the end of that career, I think that was about 1960, there were some gentlemen that started the American Football League. Baron Hilton was one. Lamar Hunt, who was over here, was one. And they got together and started a league, and there was an opportunity for coaches. And Sid Gilman was named the head coach of the Chargers at that time. It was the Los Angeles Chargers, and I called him on the phone and said, you know, I really need a coaching job. And he says, what kind of experience do you have? And I said, well, I've played, but I've never coached. And he said, you're hired. And I appreciate that opportunity, Sid, very much, because working under Sid was, you know, really something special. It was a research project. It was great guidance. It was a learning experience where he kind of let me have my head and guided me when I needed guidance, and he did that very, very well, and I appreciate that very much. And then after, you know, after being in the American Football League for a while, there was an opportunity with Don Shula in Baltimore, and again, a timely opportunity, and he hired me and gave me the necessary things to do a job, and I really have to apologize to him for Super Bowl III. That wasn't one of the finer memories that we had. But again, an opportunity came, and that was afforded by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And not only the job opportunity that was great, but living in the city of Pittsburgh was great, because one of the things that I've really failed to mention earlier is that atmosphere is a huge thing. It's a big thing. I had atmosphere in high school where you come in and you have the opportunity to grow. We had atmosphere at the University of Dayton. And in Pittsburgh, one of the things that was a real problem when I came there was, I don't want to say a lack of atmosphere, but we trained out in South Park. And if anybody has seen South Park, it was a rather depressing place. It really was. And when Three Rivers Stadium was put together, and this was put together by the citizens of Pittsburgh, I think it was a turnaround for our whole football team. We drafted some great people. We drafted the likes of Joe Green, Terry Bradshaw, Jack Ham, you know, and they came into that place. But we played the first game in Three Rivers Stadium against the New York Jets. And that was the team we lost to in Super Bowl III. And I was a little antsy about this game. I walked around the locker room, and Ray Mansfield was sitting there. He was the center for it. And I couldn't believe the look on his face, because his eyes were aglow, they were twinkling, and it was the atmosphere of a locker room and a training camp that we had come from that was really something special. And these guys went out on the field, and because of that atmosphere, the new stadium, the new teammates, they went out there, and we won the first game in Three Rivers Stadium, and from that time on, it was all uphill. You know, I said you have to be lucky, and I was. You know, we had a lot of people going through this whole thing that I am very grateful to. Grateful to the coaches that I've had, grateful to the players that I've worked with, because one of the great learning situations is trying to teach a player a particular technique or a response, and the feedback that you get from them. And I would be ever grateful and thankful, because the path to some very good things happened because of these people. I said opportunity was important, timely opportunity. But I think the single most important thing that we had, and we had in the Steelers of the 70s, was an ability to work together. You know, it's called teamwork. And, you know, it's tough to describe that, to use that word. But The thing that stuck out in my mind is that we had a lot of people that didn't worry about what somebody else did. If someone else was having a tough time on a particular day, they reached down and got it up a little more. They got the thing done. You know, whatever they had to do, they did to win. There was never a reason to let down. You know, right now you hear about teamwork and it's defined as 50-50, and that is a falsehood. There's no such thing as 50-50. You know, you do whatever you have to do as part of the team. You may have to carry somebody. We had an offensive line when we were playing Houston that was decimated with the flu. Our offense couldn't move the ball. We had an injury to the quarterback. It was a time when maybe our defense and our special teams could have said, hey, it's time to fold our tent and go home. It didn't happen that way. We had a bunch of guys, Joe Green, Jack Lambert, Jack Ham, Mel Blunt. You know, they'd get together and reach down, and what they did is they limited a running attack. When they tried to run the ball, there was a Joe Green in the running lane. There was a Jack Lambert hammering on him. They went back to pass, Pastorini, and Joe Green was all over him on the back. L.C. Greenwood. They just took the ball away from him, and we had the ball in scoring territory. We were able to kick field goals. To me, that's teamwork. Another week, the offense carried it while the defense struggled. But that is something that right now in a society of confrontation, you know, we've got male against female. We've got black against white. We've got labor against management in a confrontational thing. Well, you know, the shame of it is some people have made progress through confrontation, but I can't tell you how much you can gain, how much progress you can make by working together as a team, by helping one another. You get much more done that way. And if there's anything the Steelers of the 70s epitomized, I think it's that teamwork. Thank you very much.
In 1981, Herb Hanna had the privilege of presenting his son, John, for induction into the Hall of Fame. Today, a young man has the unique distinction of being the first son to present his father for a Hall of Fame enshrinement. Presenting Walter Payton for induction is Walter's 12-year-old son. Welcome, Jarrett Payton.
I'm trying to get this thing over with. I'm very privileged and honored to be chosen to induct my dad in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. This is a historic event which my dad, Walter, and members of the Payton family will treasure for the rest of our lives. His friends and fans will recall this memorable occasion. My dad had played football for 13 years, only missing one game and breaking all running back records. These and other records have placed him in sport annals, and that's why we are here to honor this superstar. Not only is my dad an exceptional athlete, he's a role model. He's my biggest role model and best friend. We do a lot of things together, play basketball, golf, go to the movies, to name a few. I'm sure my sister will endorse this statement. We have a super dad. My father has always been involved with charitable organizations. As a matter of fact, I can safely say he is a philanthropist. On behalf of my mom, Connie, my sister, Brittany, and all of our relatives, I congratulate you, Dad. On behalf of your friends and your fans, I say congratulations, too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I made when I first got here, we made a wager that who would be the first one to break down in tears, and I was the first one to say that I wouldn't, and I was the first one to say how strong I was and everything else. But as it goes to show that a lot of times when you're amongst your peers, such as these great athletes over here, you try to be something that you're not. And after hearing my son get up here and talk, I don't care if I lose the bet. And when you first get up here, the first thing you do is you thank a lot of people for putting you here. Because as the previous inductees, and I'm sure Coach Walsh will say, we're not standing up here because of our own merit, or because of something that we've done by ourselves. Football is a team game, and it takes everyone on that team to make a product such as these Hall of Famers that are sitting under this tent and the ones that are being inducted here today. And they'll be the first ones to say that when they stood up here and they accepted being inducted here, they did it with a great deal of embarrassment, because you were pointing all of the acclimates towards them, and they realized in their hearts that there were teammates that threw blocks, that caught passes, that talked to them when they were down. There were high school coaches such as Charles Boston that took me under his wing and helped me and taught me the fundamentals of football. And when I went to college, that was Robert Hill, who took me there, and he showed me what hard work and determination would do if you put forth the effort and you take a little time. They would stand up here and they would tell you that everything that they had on paper and everything that they had in their hearts did not come from them solely alone, but it came from the number of people that have helped them and they've met along the way, such as I. Every guy, every offensive lineman that played for the Chicago Bears helped me get that 16,000 yards, and I thank them. When you stand up here and you give talks and you give your acceptance speech, there are some humorous things that come to mind. One of them is my sister and my brother, Eddie Payton and my sister Pamela. Because when I was growing up, I was a baby. And when they had to clean the house on Saturdays and do things, when Mom went to work and said, I want this house clean when I got back, hey, I was a baby. I didn't have to do that. So these guys beat me up. That's the reason why I had the moves that I did. Because when you have an angry sister and an angry brother chasing you with a broom and a wet dish rag, you tend to pick up moves that you never had before. I want to thank them for being a part of my life and helping me to be here, because they are as much to be here as I am. Also, you know, there are a lot of people that I could name, but I won't do that, because when you do that, you leave out people that are close to you. And I said earlier, if I named all the people that have been influential in my life, I would be up here beyond the 8 minutes and 8 days. But you know, there's somebody very special, my mom, because she was the one, along with my father, who passed away in 1978, that instilled in me what you see here today. Some of it good, and everything that's bad, I earned that on my own. But I want to thank her for not giving up on me and keeping me close to her and giving me all that extra push that a son needed, who was very curious about life. In other words, she was the one that taught me the basics of what true value is all about. You know, there was a guy that was supposed to be here today to co-introduce me with my son, Mr. Jim Finks, who was having a bout with lung cancer. And I want to let him know that our prayers are with him because he was the guy who gave him my start. He was the one who called me when I was at Jackson State University the day before the draft, and he asked me a question. He said, "Walter, this is Jim Finks." He said, "How would you like to play for the Chicago Bears?" My answer to him was, "Jim, I'll play for anybody." And that was the way I felt at that particular time. And I think if I would have answered that question any different than the way I did, I would have probably been playing for somebody else, maybe even Pittsburgh. But blessings come and blessings go. But the thing that I'm most proud of and the thing that I'm most ashamed of, they coincide with each other. You saw my son up here a few minutes ago, and believe me, I had a lump in my throat that was so big, it's unbelievable. I also have a little daughter, Brittany Janae Payton, and I think about her also, because their mom was with me for those 13 years that I played, and believe me, they were not good, because I was not the easiest person to get along with. And because of my wanting to give to so many other people, sometimes you tend to neglect the people that you truly love the most. And I want to stand up here and say, at this point in my life, that Jared, Brittany, and your mom, you guys will never have to worry about anything in your life, no matter what the situation or how it ends. Because just as running up that hill and trying to catch runners such as Jim Brown and Gale Sayers motivated me to do more than I thought I possibly could do, you three will motivate me to make sure that your lives are happy and fulfilled. I'm going to close by saying, life is short. It's oh so sweet. There are a lot of people that we meet as we walk through these shallow halls. But the thing that means the most are the friendships that you meet and take along with you. I'm happy to say that everyone that I've met in my life, I have gained something from them. Be it negative or positive, it has enforced and reinforced my life in some aspect. When you speak of role models, when we talk to our kids, everybody is a role model. Everyone. Just as you look at a Michael Jordan to be the terrific athlete that he is, and then you look at a Pete Rose to be the terrific athlete that he is, then he falls on hard times. But when he played the game, I got something from the way he played the game because he hustled every play. And just because he had one mistake in his life, am I supposed to throw back everything that I gained from him? You can't do that. And I'm talking to the kids. Everybody that you meet, you can learn something from them. Everybody that comes in your life can influence your life as well. Just as these people here has. Just as you have. Because the fans are what make this game. Without you being out here and coming to this Hall of Fame, it wouldn't be professional football. So I stand here and I applaud you for supporting and staying with the National Football League and these players here. Thank you.
Like Dan Rooney did for Chuck Noll, Edward DeBartolo Jr., owner of the San Francisco 49ers, gave Bill Walsh his first pro head coaching job. And like Noll, Walsh responded by leading the 49ers from the doldrums to 3 Super Bowl championships in the 1980s. It is fitting that Edward DeBartolo Jr. is here today to present Bill Walsh for induction. Welcome, Edward DeBartolo Jr.
Our deepest congratulations to today's inductees and the inductees from the past. Bill Walsh became head coach of the San Francisco 49ers 14 and a half years ago. From that point forward, the franchise, its fans, and my life would never ever be the same. The decade of the 80s suddenly became a magical adventure, which was filled with mystery and excitement. It seemed as though a favorable spell was cast upon the 49ers that allowed us to enjoy great success at the same time avoid many adversities. Bill Walsh, the master magician who conjured up this incredible situation. What Bill achieved is not only well known, but it has become the standard by which coaching careers are now judged. His style of leadership included the amazing ability to introduce innovative techniques without destroying traditional concepts. His role as a visionary never caused him to ignore the present. Bigger was not necessarily better to Bill, nor were the strongest always the best. He emphasized the fact that personal motivation was as important as physical gifts, and that the mind and soul deserved as much attention as the body. Much has been made of various labels that sports experts attach to our new Hall of Famer. We've heard him referred as the intellectual, scholarly, and of course the genius. Notwithstanding the many efforts to categorize Bill's technique, the bottom line is very simple. He always was able to see the big picture while handling the daily details. Bill and I have a relationship that has been spiced over the years with plenty of laughter and certainly our share of tears. A special moment in time was created that would be referred to as a modern-day Camelot. Fortunately, I can now refer to that white-haired crusader who made it all possible as my deep and dear friend. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor and pleasure that I present to you the 49er for all seasons, my good friend, Bill Walsh.
Well, it's being last on the rostrum, I think maybe I can capsule a lot of the things that people have been saying. I can remember my first visit. I was awed. I sat right up there. We were here to play with the Cincinnati Bengals, played a game, and I was awed just to see this facility, just to see this stadium, and to be part of the game, just as an assistant coach. Later, I brought the 49ers here and sat right over here and watched the introductions. And my picture at one point was in this hall as the head coach of the 49ers, and I told people about it. I'm in the Hall of Fame, never thinking that someday I'd actually be enshrined in the Hall of Fame. And I'll tell you, it's an amazing, amazing history that can occur in a person's life. Obviously, I want to introduce my family. I'm going to have to read it because this is sort of an emotional time. My mother, Ruth, my beautiful wife, Jerry, my son, Steve, my daughter, Elizabeth, my son, Craig, and his wife, Kim, and of course, Norm and Jackie Flory, Jerry's sister and brother-in-law. And of course, then I'd like to just quickly name off some of the people who've really made a difference in my life in the coaching standpoint. Dick Vermeil, who's here, was a college classmate, and of course his intensity was unbelievable. I worked for Bob Bronson at San Jose State, and of course people in Cincinnati when I worked there said how wonderful you went to school in Mexico. Well, San Jose State happens to be in California, and Bob Bronson, who was a brilliant tactician, 10, 20, 30 years ahead of his time. Marv Levy was an organizer. I had a chance to work with him at Berkeley. John Ralston had all the energy and intensity any coach could ever have with great success. Al Davis was on the cutting edge with the Raiders when I was with them. Paul Brown, the master of the National Football League. And of course, Tommy Prothro, when I worked with Dan Fouts with the Chargers. These are some people that really made a difference. I'd like to also salute one of my dear friends, Jim Finks. Walter already mentioned him. Jim is a legend in the National Football League. I'm sure at some point he'll be enshrined here himself, and he's really been the master of the league. So those are the kinds of things that naturally you'd like to talk in an introduction. But let me just tell you the real basis for the National Football League. We went to San Francisco, Ed DeBartolo and myself, two guys who really had a lot to win. Ed DeBartolo Sr., who was here, Bill Moses, were really partners with us in developing the franchise. I was the fifth coach in just a matter of years trying to find the right formula, but we found it. In 3 years, we found it. The first year, I was sure we would win our share. We won 2 and lost 14. And believe me, when you go through that, you soul search. The next year, there were posters all over the city because we won our first 3 games. We'd won our first game on the road in 27 tries in San Francisco. 1 out of 27. I was proud of it, roaring back only to lose the next 8 games in a row. Now, in losing those 8, the key one was the last one. We went down and played Don Shula, bless his heart's team. And at that time, I think Don's here today, isn't he? I think at that time, Don was on the competition committee. And those were the people who picked and chose the officials. We had lost 8 straight games. The game progressed, and when Don needed a remark made, an observation, he would wave, and over would run Jim Tunney. They would discuss it. I'd be on the far side of the field. Later in the game, another question. He'd go over. I'd try to get their attention. No way. Well, believe it or not, we had the game down. If we kick a field goal, we tie the Miami Dolphins, maybe have an overtime game. We kick it. 15-yard penalty in those days. Holding. Boy, okay. We kick it again. 15-yard penalty. Holding. I looked over at Don, and Don was just shaking his head. He couldn't figure out how this could happen. We threw a pass, completed it for the obvious first down. When the ball was placed, it was placed back conveniently about a foot. We lost that game. But on the plane home, by that time, I was the only person in the first class section. The entire squad and coaching staff was in the back of the plane. I'm sure the pilot had to calibrate it to have it fly level. Everybody was cowering in the back. I looked out the window for 5 hours in the middle of the night because I broke down emotionally. I had conceded that I couldn't get the job done. 14 losses the first year, 8 straight the next year. When you lose 8 straight, you don't think you'll ever win again. 8 straight losses. I had conceded it. When I got off the plane, I was thinking, I'll finish the year out, I'll go to Ed Jr., and I'll talk to him about maybe being some form of management for him, because I brought it this far, I can't get it all the way. Well, we won the next game, and we won the next game, and we won the next game. The next year, we were world's champions. So in 3 years, we turned the whole thing around. Now, we have some San Francisco 49ers here today, and if the 49ers would please stand up. Now, we were 2,500 miles away, but we've got some. I see Randy, I see all kind of people. Please stand up, would you? Please do it for me. Where are you guys? Here we are. Now, we're from 2,500 miles away in a different kind of city, as you know. And at one point, San Francisco was in the absolute doldrums, morale-wise, all kinds of things. There had been an assassination of the mayor, and the city was in the doldrums. The city was ridiculed by many people. Well, after 3 years, we had a victory parade through Market Street. We turned the corner, and there were 300,000 people. And my point is, there were older people and younger people. There were black people, white people. There were Asian people. There were rich people and rather poor people. There were people of every gender, every interest. All of a sudden, the city came together. The city became San Francisco again. The city became a world champion for the first time, and all of those kinds of things were forgotten and minimized because we had, with the San Francisco 49ers, turned an entire state around and a huge and great city around because of professional football. We have more impact than you'd ever think on our young, on our old, and on the way people feel about themselves, each other, and their city. And so in our partnership with Ed DeBarlo and myself, a great group of people, some fine coaches, we became world's champions, and we continued to be world's champions for 4 Super Bowls in the 80s. Now, I've heard about great teams today, but we'll play anybody, I'll guarantee you. Now, people have talked about how did you become a successful coach? People talk about scripting the first 25 plays. They talk about our innovations on offense. They talk about individual players. But maybe I can relate this on behalf of our whole group today, all 5 of us, and all of the enshrinees of the past. The game is for the players. The leaders are the players. The participants are the players. The coaches are just there to help facilitate it. Now, what is leadership? Well, leadership is what we developed with the San Francisco 49ers, that each man was an extension of the other. When Joe Montana threw the ball, Randy Cross was an extension of him. When Freddie Solomon caught it, he was an extension of Randy Cross. And when Randy Cross blocked, he was an extension of Fred Dean, was an extension of Ronnie Lott, was an extension of Milt McCall. So it was a chain link that was linked together by a group of men who learned to demand a lot of each other, to love each other, to care for each other, to make any sacrifice for each other. I know there are going to be fans in the stadium today, obviously, and 2 teams playing. Well, with the 49ers, I'm sure with the Steelers, I'm sure with the Dolphins and all the other ball clubs, the players play for a group of people about 15 yards away. That's the rest of their team. They're just a few yards away, and they look over at each other. One group is sacrificing at that moment. The next group will go out there the next moment. So you find the players will play for their families, their loved ones, but they're playing for each other. They'll sacrifice, they'll do anything for each other. And I take great pride in that part of it, because I think the 49ers here today demonstrated, all of the championship teams represented here to develop it. Now, we represented each other, we played for each other, we cared for each other, and that's championship football. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
We request this huge audience to remain where you are just for a minute or two. We want to get Coach Walsh's photo, then a group photo of this outstanding group of 93 enshrinees, and then we'll escort them inside and introduce their families to you and bring their families inside. I don't know if you know, Dan Fouts is the 4th long-term member of the San Diego Chargers to be elected here. Larry Little, the 5th long-term member of the Miami Dolphins. Chuck Noll, the 13th long-term member of the Steelers, the 8th from that dynasty teams there of the 1970s. Walter Payton is the 23rd long-term member of the Chicago Bears to be elected. And Bill Walsh, the 6th member of the San Francisco 49ers to be elected. Also interesting, the careers of 4 of these 93 enshrinees include time with the San Diego Chargers. Chuck Noll, Bill Walsh, Larry Little, Dan Fouts. Chuck got his first coaching opportunity, as he mentioned, when Sid Gilman tapped him as the Chargers defensive assistant. Larry first signed with San Diego. And Bill Walsh served as the Chargers offensive coordinator for one important season there in 1976.
Otto. This man was an exceptional breakaway runner.
He was named All-NFL. We appreciate your patience as we help some of these folks up here. There you go. This new expansion, they're going to put a large Super Bowl room on the upper level of that new building. And the new expansion with the theater, they're going to have a screen 20 foot by 46 feet. It'll be a mammoth exhibit. Now to introduce to you the immediate families, and let's give them a warm Canton, Ohio reception. For enshrinee Dan Fouts, son Nick, daughter Suzanne, fiancé Jerry Burbank, dad Bob Fouts, and mom Carolyn. For enshrinee Larry Little, wife Rosie, daughter Demita, son Laren, and mother Ida. For enshrinee Chuck Noll, wife Mary Ann, son Christopher, and his wife Linda. For enshrinee Walter Payton, we have Connie, Brittany, and Aline. For enshrinee Bill Walsh, wife Jerry, daughter Elizabeth, son Steve, son Craig, and his wife Kim, and mom Ruth Walsh. For presenter Don Coryell, his wife Alyssa. For presenter Dan Rooney, his wife Pat. For presenter Edward DeBartolo Jr., his wife Candy. And presenting the Hall of Fame Board of Trustees and their special guest. And football fans, that will conclude this year's enshrinement ceremonies. Thank you for your attendance. If you're leaving, drive carefully. And if you're going to the game, enjoy. We'll see you next year.